Garrett, let's start with the SPR. There are rumors that the administration is going to release another 15 million barrels out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Obviously, likely a bit of a political move to try and keep gas prices low through November. What are your thoughts on oil and with oil trade down? Does this really have an effect on how oil is going to trade in the near and long term?
Yeah, oil markets are very, very tight. OPEC's already signaled that they're going to keep the markets tight. They were sending a signal to the West. The West didn't listen. So the Biden administration adding another 15 million. We're now at the lowest level in the SPR since the early 80s. This is not just manipulation of the market. We are now in a security threat problem, because if something happens with China and Taiwan, or we get roped into something in Europe, we only have about 20 days of national demand. So this is gamesmanship ahead of the election, and it just kind of tells you that once we get to the other side of the election, oil prices are going much higher.
Yeah, that's the way it looks to me. That's the way it looks to me. So with OPEC and with the SPR, do you are we heading? How bad do you think this winter is going to be here in the United States domestically, and then with everything going on with China cutting off LNG sales to Europe, that thing looks like they had it maybe under control, and now maybe they don't again. What are you seeing across energy as a whole and oil for the heating season?
Well, already you're seeing a potential emergency this week up in Maine. I mean, this is a real serious problem. We have all those bottlenecks up in the Northeast. We have a lack of pipelines being able to deliver heating oil, and we have a big cold snap happening across the East Coast right now. It's 60 degrees in Florida. My daughter is wearing long pants. It's a very weird experience around my household, but it shows you that if a weather event transpires and we are not ready for this domestically, we can have serious problems. We were talking to some people in the energy sector earlier this year, and they effectively were forecasting a lack of heating oil in the Northeast. This is a serious problem, and that problem is coming home to roost this fall. So I look at that. I think it's a serious problem. Natural gas prices were off a little bit this morning, but the long term is natural gas is going to remain elevated above that 550 level for the foreseeable future. Europe is going to remain a very critical driver of that market. They have dislodged the U.S. market, which the U.S. market was effectively on its own compared to the rest of the world. Now that the U.S. is going to be a major exporter to Europe, you're seeing the arbitrage and kind of delusion of prices between those disillusion of those prices between the two markets. As far as oil goes, I mean, you've seen that OPEC is effectively willing to do whatever they needed to do in order to keep prices elevated. I think that when OPEC meets next, they're going to cut oil a second time. And the reason behind this goes to the decision by Western nations to try to put a price cap on Russia. Saudi Arabia is looking at that situation right now and saying, if the Europe and the United States are willing to cap prices for Russia, what's to keep them from doing that to us? And that's why you're seeing very disturbing headlines like the idea that Saudi Arabia now wants to join the BRICS. It is that great breakup of the West and other global production globally energy and commodity producing nations at a time that we are already facing inflation. I'm long oil at this point. I think oil is going to continue to rise for the foreseeable future. And I think that the places in Texas right now, the Permian Basin producers, are still extraordinarily cheap.
Interesting. I got to get on the phone with my brother-in-law. He actually delivers heating oil in Pennsylvania. So I got to get on the phone and see what he's seeing, do some channel checks. You're not wrong. 2 months ago, Andrew Giovinazzi, who actually lives in Bath, Maine, was telling me that he had bought 2 pallets of coal. And I was like, you bought 2 pallets of coal? He goes, yeah, I don't trust the heating delivery out here. We have natural gas, but I got a coal furnace so that I'm secure if things melt. And lo and behold, he's in good shape. So proper planning prevents piss poor performance, folks.
There you go.
Okay. So Garrett, do you have how are you talked about the Permian Basin, talked about oil in general. Do you see any diamonds in the rough, any areas where people are not paying attention yet, where maybe there's a real opportunity to take advantage of the coming up move in oil?
Couple of major moves that have transpired in the last 24 hours. The Ham family took Continental Resources private. That's a sign that we're probably going to see more consolidation in the space moving forward. I'm looking at Permian Resources. PR is the ticker. I think that's a possible takeover candidate in the future. ConocoPhillips is producing and making money at $45 per barrel in the Permian Basin. Two major natural gas projects that are going to help them moving forward. I love Conoco. I love Devon Energy, Marathon Oil, MRO is the ticker. I'm currently long that. I have puts sold on Occidental down around $58. If the stock gets to the $58 level, we know that Warren Buffett's going to step in and likely buy more of the stock. And I like Exxon. I don't think there's any reason not to like any of the majors. I'm not going to speculate on any of the oil majors or oil companies up in Canada right now or abroad. I think it's a very good time because of the U.S. dollar strength to focus on the U.S. producers. I know the math better here in the United States, and I know the Permian Basin best of all, having done some work down there. So again, I look out and I say, go long, sell puts on some of these companies, look for some better entry points. But I have a very strong feeling that in this environment, we're probably going to see more inflation in the future. Next year, we're adding 70 million people are getting an 8.7% increase to their Social Security checks. Nothing against that, but that's very inflationary in nature. It's likely going to be that the United States government will be spending more and more money, even while the Fed is trying to hike up rates and reduce inflation. That is just going to lead to more inflation. So we're looking for, I'm expecting anywhere between 4 and 6% for inflation over the next 5 to 6 years. As a result of that, looking for commodity prices to rise. It starts with oil, and it starts in the Permian Basin. Those are the best value stocks in that sector today.
Well, Garrett, you just blew my mind. That was just, you just dumped an entire book's worth of information there in 2 minutes. So if people are like, wow, that was so much, what do I do? You know what? The good news is you can slow it down. Beyond me, yuck. You can slow it down. And here's how you do it. You go to a website where Garrett writes his thoughts, lays out everything every day. And it is called middaymomentum.com. And you go there for all of Garrett's insights. And on top of that, he's going to be on Midday Momentum today, or you can join World's Biggest Trade to get the real trade on every single one of these. So there you have it, middaymomentum.com to join Garrett and everything that he does. Let's kick it to Charts by Request and Olivia Vaz. Garrett, thank you.
Hurrah! Hurrah!
World.com.
Hurrah!